Tomorrow night, the Republican National Convention kicks off. In fact, our program this morning was supposed to be coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. That is until COVID changed things. Like Democrats, the RNC will host a virtual convention to renominate Donald Trump. Our next guest this morning is the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. Mr. Trump, thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
Let's talk about the case for a second term. What are the marquee items the president wants to tackle in a second term if he's reelected that he hasn't been able to accomplish so far?
Well, listen, I think we'd love to see him work with Democrats to be able to get an infrastructure bill. I think everyone recognizes that the infrastructure of this country has become dilapidated. Donald Trump is a builder. He understands how to do these things. He's tried to work with Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats on this, which is why it's so important to take back the House, because they don't want to give Donald Trump yet another economic win. But especially now, coming out of the COVID crisis, putting Americans back to work, rebuilding our infrastructure is going to be so critical. And Donald Trump is legitimately the perfect guy for that because he's been a builder his entire life. He understands how to get that done.
Mr. Trump, I want to talk about polls because polls here in Texas show it could be a close race, the closest it's been in decades here. Will you or the president or the vice president be making any more campaign trips to Texas before the November election?
Well, I was actually supposed to be there tomorrow and Friday. Unfortunately, my uncle, my father's brother, passed away this past weekend, and so the funeral services are going to be this Friday. So we're going to do those events digitally now rather than in person.
I want to talk about the Republican National Convention is coming up here, too. What will your dad's main message be next Thursday night when he accepts the nomination again?
Well, listen, I think he's going to talk about rebuilding America, bringing it back from the China virus. The reality is before this, flu hit, America was in the greatest economic position it had ever been. The lowest unemployment numbers in history for African Americans, for Hispanic Americans, for women, for every demographic possible. The highest new startup business for the same group of people. The lowest income earners for the first time in modern history. Their wages were actually going up. That didn't happen by accident. That happened because Donald Trump had a plan.
Speaking of the November election, will you accept the results of what happens in November?
100%. If things are done fairly, right? I mean, to arbitrarily say that is a little ridiculous. You see what's going on with some of the mail-in balloting push. We're fine with absentee balloting, where we've said that 100%, where there's a system, but where randomly you blanket mail hundreds of millions of ballots to people who may not be living in those places is a system that's ripe with fraud. And you don't have to just believe me. Look at Jerry Nadler, not exactly a conservative. He said that about New York. New York right now is, I think, 50-something days post a primary. They still don't know who won because of that disaster. So utilizing existing things that have worked in the past is fine. But to try to rework that system for 350 million people 70 days out seems pretty ridiculous.
Mr. Trump, thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's great being with you.